Hey, it's that time again. Time for another episode of Shelve It or Shove It, the completely superficial way to pick books for your TBR based solely on their covers. I'm your host, Daisy X Machina, the drag queen detective who investigates all things speculative in science fiction, fantasy, and horror. I'll be looking at new releases for the month of September to pick one book for my TBR in October. Again, just looking at the covers. Starting with science fiction. And first up is Sky Full of Elephants by Sibo Campbell. I think it's a little bit simple. There's this person's head and there's this highway going through it. It's very cartoony, very illustrated, and these little lightning bolts around the head. I don't know what this is about. I don't know what type of science fiction this could be. No clue. Unless it's something about driving or Uber. I don't know. I can't pick this just based on the cover. I'm going to have to shove it. Next up is Polo Stand by Neal Stephenson. I love Neal Stephenson, going way back to Snow Crash. This says Volume 1 of Bomb Light. So I'm assuming this is a series and this is the first book. And the other books haven't been written yet. I'm not really crazy about just getting the first book in a series, but the cover's different. I'm going to think it's alternate history because it looks kind of retro with these bombs and this woman standing on a world. It's an interesting cover. I like the retro feel to it, but I believe it's the first in the series, so I'm going to have to shove it. Next up is, I started to worry about this Black Box of Doom by Jason Hargan, who wrote John Dies at the End. I haven't read that, but I've seen the movie, which I thought was pretty good. But talking about retro covers, this is so retro with the illustration and these little cutouts. I kind of love it. I'm guessing it's about an alien encounter in the United States with a road trip, maybe? I don't know. But I'm getting that by the little icons that sort of are scattered around the background, and I'm so intrigued. I'm going to have to shelve it. Next up is Exodus by Peter F. Hamilton, another big-name science fiction author. I'm actually not sure what the full title is. It could be The Archimedes Engine, Exodus, Become the Traveler, or Exodus, Become the Traveler. The cover's okay. There's these like gold bars going into this center circle, which could be a planet, and there's a little silhouette of a golden man underneath. I'm not quite sure what this could be about. Judging by the title, maybe a diaspora from Earth colonizing a planet. That's a big guess. I don't think I know enough about the book just by the cover, so I'm going to have to shove it. And finally, in science fiction, we have Countess by Susan Palumbo. This looks like supernatural fantasy, doesn't it? Doesn't she look like a vampire? Maybe she's a vampire or vampiress on another planet. I don't know. I'm a little confused about that. And as much as I like the illustration, I don't know what type of science fiction this could be. I'm assuming another planet. This is one of those where I may turn it over to look at the blurb, but that's not what this show is about. This is about picking books by their cover. And for this cover, I'm going to have to shove it. And now we move on to fantasy. And first up is Somewhere Beyond the Sea by T.J. Klune, which is a sequel to House in the Cerulean Sea. And I will be shelving this because I am definitely going to read the sequel, but I won't be choosing it at the end because I don't like picking sequels for Shelve It or Shove It unless they're standalones. And I'm pretty sure this is not a standalone. But I do like this cover. I like that cutout illustration style. This one has a phoenix. Again, I am going to shelve it. But the proviso is I won't be picking it at the end, just so you know. Next up is A Dark and Drowning Tide by Allison Saft. And I kind of like this illustration. There's these two people. It looks very ethereal. I like this style of art. And they both look like they're kind of floating in a river or pond or lake of lilies, because there's these lily pads. It's very dark and moody. I kind of feel like this is going to be a romantasy because of the two figures that are staring directly into my eyes. I'm thinking it's probably some type of gothic horror, maybe. I have to tell you, I just have a sinking feeling it's going to be a romance, and I'm not really into romances. So I'm going to, just for that reason, shove it. Next up is An Academy for Liars by Alexis Henderson, author of House of Hungers. Again, this is giving me kind of a horror vibe. And there's this moth with pins through it, which always makes me think of Victorian, maybe. And the cover's a little simple for me. I am intrigued by the title, An Academy of Liars, but just picking a book based on the cover, I don't think this is going to do it. So I'm going to have to shove it. Next up is Vilest Things by Chloe Gong. And I kind of recognize this style because I think I've seen a similar cover by Chloe Gong before, which makes me pretty sure this is going to be a sequel or a next volume in a series. And I do like it. I kind of like that card and sort of that gold embossed look. I just feel this is going to be a sequel. But I do like the cover. You know what? I am going to go ahead and shelve it. Now, if I find out this is a sequel, I won't pick this book, but the first book in the sequence or the series. We shall see. Finally, in fantasy, we have Bringer of Dust by J.M. Muro. And there's this hand that's half skeletal on this sort of, I guess, window that looks like paper, maybe, sort of this splotchy paper on a purple sea of stars. So this is very weird. This is a weird cover, and I don't know what it's about. It's giving me horror vibes once again, and we're not even into horror yet. This is confusing me. I think I'm going to have to shove it. Now we'll move on to horror. Woo! And it is October, so maybe I should pick a horror novel. We'll see. First up is Under the Surface by Diana Urban with the tagline, "She'll do whatever it takes to survive. He'll do whatever it takes to find her." Ooh, this is not the type of horror I usually like. This is sounding like a thriller about a woman or a man hunting a woman. I've said it before, I like my horror supernatural. And this could be a slasher type domestic abuse thing. I don't know. I don't like it. I would have to shove it. Next up is Better Left Buried by Mary E. Roach. And I am sure this is going to be supernatural. There is this, I don't know, carnival or fair type thing that looks like it's seen better days. It's very dark. and there is a couple on a motorcycle. So, the title, Better Left Buried, is in this neon glowing letters. I am kind of curious. A spooky carnival seems perfect for Halloween. Wouldn't care so much if it's a romance, but usually horror, the romance is not prominent even if there is a sub-B plot. I just like these vibrant, rich, saturated colors. So let's go ahead and shelve it. Next up is One House Left by Vincent Ralph. Once again, this looks like a slasher type horror rather than supernatural. There's this window with a blood-stained hand going down. This is not my type of horror, I don't think. At least judging by the cover. So I'm going to have to shove it. Next up is The Queen by Nick Cutter. Now, I really like it. Looks like a torn up old book cover from, I don't know, the 70s or 80s. And there's this woman's face or girl's face, I'm not sure, with a bee on it. So Queen, I'm thinking about Queen Bee. And it could be about a mutant strain of bees that controls people, or a psychic girl that controls bees. I don't know. I kind of love it because it's giving me classic Stephen King. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and shelve it. And finally, in horror, and our final book is We Love the Nightlife by Rachel Kohler Croft, author of Stone Cold Fox. Katie Hayes says it's irresistibly glamorous and impossibly fun. And there's these two women. You see their lips, pretty much. One is a vampire, definitely. Is this some kind of sapphic vampire romance? That's what I'm getting from the cover, and that's really not my cup of tea. Not because it's sapphic, but because I don't like romance stories, and I want my horror to be horror. So I think I'm going to have to shove it. Okay, we have picked 5 books. 1 science fiction. I'm starting to worry about The Black Box of Doom by Jason Pargin. We've picked 2 fantasy, Somewhere Beyond the Sea by TJ Klune, and Violet Things by Chloe Gong. And we picked 2 horror, Better Left Buried by Mary Roach, and The Queen by Nick Cutter. So, like I said, I will be reading Somewhere Beyond the Sea, but I'm not picking it for Shelve It or Shove It. And I am worried that this Chloe Gong book is a sequel, so I'm not going to be picking that one either. And it's either going to be horror, or I'm starting to worry about The Black Box of Doom. I just think that cover is so funny. I kind of want to read that one. But I've been picking a lot of science fiction recently, and I kind of want to do a horror for Halloween. And I have 2 possibilities here. Better Left Buried by Mary Roach and The Queen by Nick Cutter. And I keep going to that retro, torn up, battered cover of The Queen. And I'm getting the storyline. I don't know if I'm just making it up about the girl with the queen bee. Either she's controlling the bee or the bee's controlling her. I am getting classic Stephen King from it. So yeah, let's go ahead and read The Queen by Nick Cutter. Let's see how right or wrong I am and read the blurb. The national best-selling author of horror book talk sensation The Troop returns with a heart-pounding novel of terror about a young woman searching for her missing friend and uncovering a shocking truth. On a sunny morning in June, Margaret Carpenter wakes up to find a new iPhone on her doorstep. She switches it on to find a text from her best friend, Charity Atwater. The problem is, Charity's been missing for over a month. Most people in town, even the police, think she's dead. Margaret and Charity have been lifelong friends. They share everything, know the most intimate details about one another, but Charity carries a secret that even she is unaware of, a secret engraved in her DNA helix. For Charity is also known as Subject 6, the crown jewel of Project Athena, a clandestine and unorthodox gene manipulation experiment, the brainchild of tech titan Rudyard Crate. And when Charity's gene sequencing actualizes during a traumatic event at a high school party, it sets in motion a chain of events that will end in tragedy, bloodshed, and death. And now Charity wants Margaret to know her story, the real story. In a narrative that takes place over one feverish day, Margaret follows a series of increasingly dreadful breadcrumbs as she forges deeper into the mystery of her best friend, a person she never truly knew at all. Oh my gosh, it's been so long since I am so excited about a blurb more than even the cover. I am getting so many things. I'm getting Stranger Things. I'm getting Carrie. This is definitely a science fiction twist to horror, which I love. I am so excited to read this. I am so stoked. Let's hope it doesn't let me down. So I picked The Queen by Nick Cutter, but I want to know what book or books you would have picked based solely on their covers. Let me know down in the comments, and while you're there, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel. Until we meet again, may all the books you read be blessed.